All right, let's kick off. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Power BI for Government Community of Practice number 22. Can you believe it? Great to have you here. We've got some amazing presentations for you this afternoon. In terms of a little bit of housekeeping, just before we kick off, so we are running this session via Teams webinar. So if you want your camera on and off, I suppose that's up to you, but could ask that you do keep yourself muted for the presentations. Because there's quite a few of us here, if you'd like to ask a question, just put it in the chat and I'll monitor it in the chat and I will ask the questions for you. If you have a technical or a difficult question to type, feel free to raise your hand, and during the questions at the end of the session, I'll let you ask your question. So just another note, this session is being recorded, so I will be putting it up on YouTube. So if you miss it or you want to share it with your colleagues, I will send around a link after that. For those who haven't been here before, welcome. Power BI for Government Community of Practice. There's my timer going off. We're all about sharing what's happening in the world of Power BI. So we have lots of user stories, learning opportunities, what's new in the Power BI. Today we're a pretty jam-packed session, so we've got 3 user stories, Power BI examples, but really it's for you to connect, to learn, to see what people in the government space are doing in the world of Power BI. For those who haven't met, my name's Warren.dean. My company, which is just me, DataTale, we do Power BI training, build out Power BI reports, roll out Power BI across organizations. So if you have any Power BI requirements, you need any support, you've got my email, please do shoot me an email. And the next thing that I've actually been working on is a Power BI visual, which is just a map. I don't know if you've worked, in the spatial area in Power BI, but it's definitely lacks in terms of Power BI maps. And so with Hume, which was my client at the time, we built out a Power BI visual, and I'll just demo it here. So you can grab it if you want to. Well, not grab it, if you want to see it and have a look at the link. I'll drop it in the chat for you. So feel free to check it out. The reason I built this was there was a lot of cool requirements in terms of having a Capital Works map. Let me actually open it up and jump in full screen mode here. This is all actually one visual. So it's not multiple visuals on the page. It's all one visual, and it's all completely interactive in terms of its legend, information button, all these type of things, switching between suburb and ward. And what they really wanted was to be able to click on an area and have that polygon zoom in and then get the information here. So you can zoom in, you can click, and you can see fake pictures, but obviously it's not swimming building there, but carousels of images. You can keep zooming in and you'll see it tilts and you get the 3D image coming back to like the grayscale. So yeah, Hume have been really happy with this, and I've been able to kind of package it up into a Power BI visual that you can use. And the great thing about this, if you have a look down the bottom here, it's using 100% open source. So open source satellite imagery, maps, everything. So there's no ongoing license for you from any particular company. So I'm happy to work with you. I have to retrofit it to make it fit for purpose for your organization. But if you would like a solution that you can put publicly and then share publicly without having to worry about how many people are looking at it and getting charged per view, this is out of the box, no license, one-off fee, and that's for you to purchase. So if you're interested in that, do yell out. Our next Power BI for Government, so number 23 is on. Oops, I should have turned my emails off. We talked about this before in the white room. I'll drop this chat in the chat for you. So session 23, so Andrew's come along from Banyule City Council. So I built a Power BI report with Banyule. It was a 352-page PDF that we brought down to a 55-page Power BI report. And there was a lot of AI use in terms of me using Claude and AI to automate the many different pages in that report. So we're going to walk through that, some of the learnings that we did. I definitely don't have time to teach you 100% all to do with Power BI, but if you'd like to see how sort of AI is changing Power BI, come along to that. The registration link, 20th of October, we'll do that one. But if you would like to learn how I'm using AI to build out Power BI reports to get nearly agentic, so probably 90% agentic, come along to the briefing. It's a once a month meetup. This is the new way that I'm doing training. AI keeps changing. I did build an AI course and then AI changed and I changed it and then AI changed again. So I've decided to move to what I'm calling the briefing, which is once a month. We meet up for an hour. I walk you through what works, what doesn't work, how I'm changing the way I work within Power BI. And so I've had 3 or 4 people are interested in learning in this particular manner. Obviously, I have all the kind of Power BI courses, which we do in a day, but this is more let's learn together. Let's build a community together where we're changing the way we work in the way of Power BI. So you can see all the pricings and things like that there. Be 12 sessions a year, all recorded. I give you all the material so you can go away and build out in your own space. So if you're interested in that, please do reach out as well. But enough from me. Let's jump into our session today. So we've got Joanne, Philip, and Dale. They're going to be talking, well, I'll let them introduce themselves, but really looking forward to these presentations. So Joanne, I'll let you go first and I'll hand the screen over to you if you want to introduce yourself and the team for us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, Warren. We are doing a bit of a team effort today in terms of presentation. So Jesse, if you don't mind grabbing the screen and popping up our presentation. Just while you're doing that, I'll introduce us. My name is Joanne James. I'm the Director of the Data Front Door and Analytics team at IP Australia. And with me is Jesse Rutherford, who is the Senior Data Visualisation Officer, and also Mitch Gray, who's our Senior Data Scientist. So we're here today to talk about data analytics for fraud detection, and more specifically, the neural network that was developed by Mitch to assist our fraud detection and management activities. So if we go to the contents page, is that coming up? Thank you. So first of all, I'll provide a little bit of operational context around the specific problem that we encountered. Mitch will run you through the response and what we did to address the specific issue. And then Jesse will take us through how we actually use Power BI to share the findings with the business. And also touching on the IP Australia Power BI style guide and some of the lessons learned and opportunities that we managed to get from the experience. So for context, in early 2025, IP Australia started receiving complaints from the attorney sector, specifically around address for legal services attached to trademark applications. The complaint was around those addresses being changed without permission. So it further escalated later on in the year in about mid-2025 into trademark filings actually being paid for with stolen credit cards. So this was discovered, this second component, mainly because we were receiving a high number of chargebacks from the banks, where people were disputing charges on their credit cards. So this was not great because at times it could be weeks until those complaints reached us and that we had time to investigate. So from the first one that we received, we believed that the changes to legal address and the stolen credit card transactions had very similar behaviours in terms of how these people were interacting with our online services system. So that being said, it was very evident in the pattern to when the transactions were actually occurring. So, late at night, outside of office hours, on weekends, basically when they thought that nobody was watching. So based on those observations, we established a system to detect the transactions as early as we possibly could. In parallel, the colleagues that we had in finance, they were investigating some payment gateway solution options, but that component of it would obviously take a fair bit of time. And there wasn't much confidence in the fact that it would be the only effective response. So we needed to pull together a couple of different solutions and work together to figure out a way of combating this. Another tricky situation we were dealing with is the fact that we don't have any legislative way to stop the transactions from coming through the door in the first place. because the actors were effectively using the system the way it was intended to be used. So all of the applications coming through were meeting all of the minimum filing requirements. It's just that the credit cards being used to transact were stolen. So as a first port of call, the operational area moved to manually processing some of the applications overnight, which was very, very time consuming. And also it didn't really help in terms of the confidence that we had with our stakeholders. Another thing that we did was reach out to some of our counterparts overseas. So some of the IP officers overseas that we have bilateral communications and relationships with, and they actually confirmed that they are experiencing some similar targeted activities as well. So we weren't the only ones that were being impacted by this activity. Further investigations as well indicated that the suspicious activity was actually linked to foreign actors who were doing this to establish some accounts on Amazon Marketplace. So in a nutshell, really, you might sort of think that it's a bit strange for a data and analytics team to be undertaking effectively what is a cyber monitoring function. But in order to turn this around very, very quickly, we had the skills available in the team to be able to do that. And because the agency was at risk of facing some reputational damage, it sort of fit nicely into our remit and what we could actually help deliver in terms of the solution. That being said, it was a very serious situation that we'd never experienced before. So the approach that we really wanted to take was somewhat experimental, but we needed to use a cautious approach to it while innovating on the fly. So this is where Mitch comes into it, and it comes to what we did in response. So I might hand over to him now to go through the approach that was taken and the solution that he developed. Over to you, Mitch.
So IP Australia receives lots of different types of transactions in any given day. New requests for trademark filings, new requests for patents, renewal fees, all sorts of things. And when we looked at these transaction types occurrences across the course of the day, we were able to work out, using a auto-encoding neural network, a way of representing the normal cadence or heartbeat of those transactions across the course of a week or a day or a particular period of time. And using a denoising autoencoder, we were able to identify time periods initially where the apparent pattern of transactions appeared to be higher or at least aberrant in some way. And this, in the initial phases of our response, allowed us to focus the investigative efforts of our colleagues in the customer experience group, who were managing the process of identifying and suspending fraudulent accounts. It allowed us to provide them with some targeted zone of applications to provide investigation. Across the time period, because this was a sustained period of fraudulent attacks going for about 6 to 12 months, we observed that those neural networks' performance eventually began to degrade as the models became normalized and sort of numb to the deviation of the fraudulent transactions compared to what it had been trained to expect as normal. In other words, it started to expect fraud rather than to perceive fraud as an aberrant behavior. We did look at some solutions to resensitize those networks by providing only a certain curated date range or time range to those networks, but ultimately we settled on a different solution, which was the basis of a Power BI visualization that was developed by Jesse and his team. What this basically does is look over the past 7 days to identify accounts, contacts of those accounts, payment methodologies of those accounts, components of names of accounts that have something in common. At least at IP Australia's scale of business operations, the likelihood that any two actors within the same 7-day period appear to have precisely the same or highly similar business details is extraordinarily low. And so by identifying this in a sort of network science domain where we looked at the interconnections between actors within the network, we were very easily able to identify how particular actors were connected and identify them as likely fraudulent actors for account suspension. Now, in order to make this useful intelligence, the story sort of unfolds from the imagery of the interconnection between the network, but from an engineering perspective, we needed to be able to provide high cadence, so roughly hourly reporting on the number of connections which had formed. With our particular series of fraudulent actors, they were able to load accounts and begin fraudulent credit card transactions within under an hour. And so having that hourly reporting cadence regularly refreshed with an automated pipeline allowed us to do counter fraud monitoring and provide that intelligence to the business areas. But this was merely the sort of engineering solution. The way that the solution worked and provided useful information to the business was all done through the Power BI layer, which I'll hand over to Jesse now to talk about.
Thank you, Mitch. I'll just get that. So Power BI is IP Australia's tool of choice, and it was an adequate solution to share Mitch's network analysis given the specific requirements we had. These were an automated hourly refresh to deliver as real time as possible the findings of Mitch's analysis, the ease of visually representing the suspicious activity, reliable access control, and interactivity for end users to allow some drill down. So the dashboard users were a task force that was set up to monitor and manage the fraudulent activity. The process itself of visualizing the data that highlighted the interrelated suspicious customer clusters was a novel challenge for myself and my team, as the data was in an unusual format. We utilized network visualization to display the clusters, which we named as subgraphs. We set up thresholds for interrelated customer clusters so that they could be conditionally formatted on the dashboard to easily highlight the clusters of interest and allow the end users to drill down to view the transactions made by this specific cluster. Using the dashboard, the task force would investigate the fraudulent cluster of customer accounts with their own tools and suspend any transactions that were necessary. Just going to pop the dashboard onto the screen share. So utilizing IP Australia's internal Power BI style guide, this allowed us to integrate the novel visualizations seamlessly into the look and feel of our existing reports, and it also supported an expedited dashboard development timeline. We were also able to then enhance our style guide by including the new types of visualizations that were critical to this application. So just a quick overview of the dashboard. So we have a couple of little matrix visuals where we display the trademarks that have been affected by the interrelated customer clusters. So these are what we call subgraphs. So as you can see, once they hit a certain threshold, they are conditionally formatted to be this yellow color, and the interactivity on the dashboard allows you to select that subgraph, which the network visualization actually displays the relationship and the interconnectedness of these online customer accounts. And the other benefit was if you're drilling down to look at a specific subgraph, the dashboard clearly showed the latest transactions that these suspicious customer accounts had made. Sorry, I just turned the screen share off rather than moving that one. So from there, we had some lessons learned and some new opportunities. So the utility of network analysis as conducted by Mitch's team to conduct fraud investigations. So very valuable skill set. It is not just useful for fraud investigations, so it does have other use cases as well. the importance of cross-functional team collaboration to respond to an urgent issue such as this, the novel method of visualizing the relational data in Power BI, which is then clearly easily, it's useful to easily identify the suspicious accounts, the use of data storytelling to convey the importance to the stakeholders or the significance of the suspicious activity that has been flagged, and a bit of a positive just to facilitate expedited dashboard development, especially in urgent situations like this. Our Power BI style guide is a very valuable resource. That is about us.
Yeah, so we reached the end of the presentation. Thank you. You want to pop it on the last screen there, Jesse? We've got some of our contact details. So Jesse did mention one of the things that we had originally incorporated into our presentation was our Power BI style guide, but noting that it was quite a lengthy presentation already, I thought I'd just mention we do actually have a style guide for the organisation that is actually built in Power BI. If anyone is interested in learning more about that, please feel free to reach out to us. We do have our contact details, and I think the email address is right down the bottom there. Hopefully that was a useful presentation, and if anyone is keen to know more, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, team. If there's any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. Like, is there, moving forward, do you have any more plans in terms of improvements for what you've done, or like a phase 2, or is it fit for purpose now and does everything you need?
So at this point in time, the neural network, it's not the only tool that we are using to combat the fraud detection and monitoring and actioning on that. It is purely one tool that we do use in a suite of many different tools. So I'll probably leave it up to Mitch to sort of talk about the future direction. We have investigated other uses of neural networks and his ability to develop those, which has been really useful to the organisation across other capabilities as well, specifically internal investigations or investigations on other particular data sets that are either operational or corporate. Have I missed anything, Mitch?
No, that's correct. Yep. The agency is also conducting fraud monitoring using commercially available tools now. Our project is largely to stand up an urgent response capability that provided enough intelligence to the business to prevent us being completely taken as suckers. In terms of our usage of this particular visualization sort of suite and methodology, there is an ongoing use case that we've sort of developed for the ability to do Power BI visualization. And the person in the chat has just asked the question, which is the salient question. There is a Power BI visualization that we obtained from an earlier version of Power BI, but we understand that particular visualization has been withdrawn. We do have an ongoing need to visualize complicated network relationships. These ones, as you saw, were pretty simple, 3 or 4 nodes. Some of the networks that we're constructing for other purposes have 70 to 200,000 nodes present in them, which is obviously a challenge for visualization at that scale.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent, thank you. Any other questions? No, fantastic. All right. Yeah, and I'll share those details as well to everyone afterwards. But thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Really good solution to spin something up like that so quickly. And there's a question about the style guide. Is that publicly available? Like, is there something I can email to people? Or
yeah, I do actually have a publicly available version of it, so I do have a link that I'll be able to share.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, sure. Excellent. All right, we can get that. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So yeah, very valuable. Okay, our next presentation is we've got Phil. Let me share the screen. I'm not sharing. Philip Monk from Devonport City Council. Phil, over to you if you'd like to take over the screen and just introduce yourself. And
excellent, thank you.
Yep, perfect.
Thanks for that. Thank you for that, Warren. Afternoon, everyone. I'm here today to present on something that we have been working at Devonport. It's called in the introduction, it said Objective Connect. We've changed the name a couple of times. I've just kept it general. Internally, we call it Planet, but essentially it's a strategic management solution. So it's essentially, this presentation is going to take you through, I'm going to take you through how we turned a manual reporting task into a simple connected solution. So just quickly, a bit of background about myself. I'm the Strategic Innovation and Data Lead at Devonport City Council. My purpose that I've focused on throughout my career is simple. It's empowering people and organisations to use data to inform their decisions. And to me, the data isn't just numbers. It's a tool for bringing clarity, building understanding, and driving better outcomes. I've got 20 years of experience in data and business analysis. I've been using Power BI for a long time, and I've had a lot of experience using data to empower digital transformation. So I'll get straight into it. So to start with, I'm going to, what was the problem we were trying to solve? Essentially, at Devonport, we've got a lot of strategic documents, about 35 or so, that we have to report on, that different people have to report on. That's about 650 actions or objectives. It's depending on the type of document, it can be monthly, which is with the annual plan, to yearly. It depends. But the biggest thing is that there's really not a lot of people that have that responsibility. So there's essentially 12 document owners across all of those documents. There's a few people that have a lot, and it's a complex problem. It's hard to keep track of all the reporting and also deliver the project as well, and the responsibilities. So generally speaking, lots of effort for everyone, but with spreadsheets and also other solutions, a bit difficult to see what's happening. It's a bit, the way things were working it was a bit slow to pull together, inconsistent ways of presenting and updates, and really that significant burden on everyone to update and keep track of what they have to do. So in essence, what we needed was a solution that was visible, increased visibility of all information, made it effortless to present the information, ensure consistency, and reduce the load on responsible staff. That's really the goal that I started out with. So now I'll get into what was the solution to the problem. And essentially it came down to making the updates effortless. So everybody who's responsible for updating those actions, they're very busy. And what I focused on was trying to reduce the amount of effort that they have to do for each update action to just the bare information that they need. So that's how they're tracking, how the action is tracking, how far along are they, and what is the update description. So in their own words, what did they want to communicate where things were sitting? And everything else is already preloaded. That's all they have to do. They can then focus on just updating that information for their actions they're responsible for. So the scope of the solution is simple. Essentially, capture the information, prepare it, unify it into one single source, and then present it for tracking and reporting. So from an architectural point of view, there's 4 different layers, and I'll go into those individually. There's the data capture layer, so that's where we collect the information. We did that in a model-driven app. Then we've used Power BI data flows to transform the information and to make it available for analysis, for building and transforming in the data set. So that's a semantic model layer. And then obviously the analytics and reporting layer. So we've got that single source of truth that we can then build as many different views of that information as we need to deliver that information to all the different stakeholders. So from the data capture point of view, so as I said, it's a model-driven Power App. It's sitting on top of Dataverse. And the way that we've designed it is it's just a simple data model. So you have a document, strategic document. That document has actions, and then you provide updates against those actions. And that's pretty much it from the data capture point of view. That simple approach does give us a lot of power on information that we collect. So what I'll do now is I'll run you through what that model-driven Power App looks like, so that you can see how we've designed it. So to start, we're at the end of the development process, so we're about to move it into production. So at the moment, it's still in development. We've just got to make some last tweaks, and then it'll be moved to production. This is what everyone sees when they come in. They can link off to other parts of the solution. If there's also a version of this that sits on our intranet, so people can find the information that way as well. And from this screen, they can go to the documents. So these are just a list of our strategic documents that we have to report on. Anybody can enter it this way. They can search, they can find the information they need. They can then click on a document. So this is just an example. I just created some information for this presentation. So this is the annual plan from last financial year. All of this information is already loaded ahead of time for the people, the responsible people, and then they can come in here. They can see the plan. Then they can click on an action if they want to see where it's at. That then takes them through. They can see all the actions that they want. There is obviously the responsible people. For this one, it's all been allocated to me for this example, but there's many different levels of allocation. So in order to make it easy for the people who are responsible for reporting on that document, they can actually choose to allocate responsibility for updating specific actions to other people in their team. If they want to, that allows us to sort of distribute that burden as well. So once you This is the information that you see at the action or objective level. Once again, all of this has already been inputted ahead of time, and all they have to do is come in here and see what updates they need to still make. And then once they do that, this is a simple screen that they see. They just have to update the status, put in a description and update, and they update the progression. And that's pretty much all they have to do. So the way that it's also, which comes into how Power BI works, is the people who have been responsible for updating that particular action, because all of it's been preloaded. So all of the required updates, some of the actions might go for 5 years. They might be for the annual plan, there's one every month. So those updates get added already ahead of time. That also makes it simple for us to say, well, it's a month, there's a month to go, send them a notification, it's overdue, send them another notification. It allows us to easily notify people, and then they can click on a link and they can come straight back in here and enter the information. So the transformation layer, this is where we take the information and bring it in so that we can make it available in Power BI for analysis. As I said, we've used Dataflow. We're using just the standard generation 1. The whole solution is sort of built on Power BI using Power BI Pro. While we have started to move into Fabric, there's not really a need to use Gen 2 data flows. It's just simply about bringing the information in so that we can pull it into Power BI desktop and build the data model. It's prepared, cleaned up, and then we create 2 different governed versions, which I'll go into detail in a sec. So quickly, this is the data flow. It goes in, as I said, we create 2 different versions. We create the clean version, all columns, a clean version and a public version. And that public version is the one that we use for creating the public version of the report. The advantage of that is that you can make sure that you don't accidentally share information that you shouldn't. So I'll just move through. So this is the semantic layer. This is where we combine all the information. Where possible, I always try to use a star schema, make it simpler. So I use within the Power BI data, we use the extract, transform, load. That just makes it simple, and it makes it easy for someone else who didn't develop to come in and pick in and follow the information back to the source. Then this is the data model, quite simple. As I said, it follows the documents to actions to updates. Makes it easy down the track also for us to put Copilot on top of it, because the data model is quite easy to interpret. And then these are just the DAX measures. So finally, the final is the analytics and reporting layer. So there's Power BI reports, dashboards, and there's a public, and we're starting to talk about doing an elected member version, which is sort of just a little bit more detail than the public version. So this is an example of the reporting in Power BI. It's designed to give people access to find all the information on all the plans. We track, which actions are on track, which are at risk, which are off track. You can see all the objectives. You can go into an individual action and see all the information, how it's going, previous updates. And then you can also see timelines on when the actions are due and due to finish. The public report, this is still in draft, but it's designed to present the information, simple way for the public. It just gives them the some basic information. What is the action? How's it's progressing? And that's it. It has some links back to the actual document and our website, but that's essentially the approach that we use with our public reports, is provide them with the basic information they need so they can get an idea of what's happening. This is still in draft, but the idea of the elected member application is to provide a way to provide the same information that goes to council every month, that then gets shared publicly, but give them that information in a way that they can look it up later. So the only difference between this and the public one is that there's a second report page that essentially provides the updates that are for that gets presented at the council meeting. So from a future point of view, where do we go from here? So the idea of the next steps is to then use that information and start to use AI to do some cool things with that information. So one of the things we want to do is to work on how do we actually, the other documents, how do we potentially use that information to gain insights from the text that people are writing, so that that can then also become a source of information that we can report on. So give overviews for the executive team, for managers and other people in the organisation. And that's the presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. Any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But yeah, so essentially you've built end-to-end application there, so all in Microsoft. So very good. I'm sure there's a few corporate reporters out there who might be getting in touch. Excellent. Any questions? Otherwise, for the sake of time, we can jump into Dale's presentation. All good. Awesome. Thanks, Philip. Really appreciate it. Yeah, great to see what you've been able to build. Again, like I mentioned, end to end. I was thinking of a product that you essentially replicated there, doing all of that work. So no, well done.
Thank you.
All right. Dale, if you're there, if you'd like to take over the screen and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Dale, Senior Data Scientist for the Transport team at Hamilton City Council in New Zealand. I'll be sharing a few open source tools that we use in Power BI that we've recently developed ourselves, just for some, basically for a tailored use case, specific needs we've had around spatial mapping. Obviously in transport you need a fair bit of spatial mapping, and a lot of that's in ArcGIS, but there's also a need for having that in Power BI as well. Just trying to get my camera on here. Seems like it's not working. Try that button. I can't get my webcam to work. Sorry, I'll share my screen anyway.
All good.
Yeah, so I'll just be going through mainly the DepGL custom map visual that we created. It's a project that started a couple of years ago when we had a need to visualize polyline data at Power BI, and we found that a bit tricky. So we originally used an icon map to do that, which I think was coming through in WKT format. But obviously icon map's not free anymore, it's a paid product, and it was missing a few features that we needed to have. So we started looking into other mapping visuals, and none of them really quite suited our needs, especially for visualizing large quantities of data, things like GPS traces and travel time information, thousands of roads, that sort of thing, especially showing other visuals and content on the page would start to chug a little bit. So we, a couple of years ago, started to build our own visual. The other thing was the character limit. So when we're showing SA2s, which is kind of like our suburbs in New Zealand, we ran into character limits in Power BI showing that as WKT because the SA2s follow quite odd boundaries, things like gullies and property boundaries. So I won't go into too much technical detail, but it's kind of just using the standard TypeScript Power BI custom visual framework with map Liba doing the base map and the camera work for tilting and panning and so on. And then DeckGL gave us the high performance WebGL layer. So that's showing the actual layers of geometry on top of the base map. And that supports every geometry type, arcs, points, polygons, so on. And we found it was pretty high performance with showing multiple layers and tens of thousands of lines and points on the map. So this is what it looks like. Supports all the major geometry types, including extruded polygons. So that's a polygon with a height and a time value on it. So I'll go into what that means for our use case here. Just go through the rest of these points. So we've got WKT and WKP geometry encoding. WKP is our own encoding format that we developed, which takes WKT and encodes it to a set of characters, so a shorter string to get around that length issue that we found. The visual supports multiple layers on one map, as many as you want, with the ability to reorder which one's in front and which ones are behind. It's got heat map and H3 hexagon point aggregations. You can label things. There's rich HTML tooltips, which is something that we really wanted. That was a limitation that we found with other map visuals, was the ability to show tooltips with the right information on them. So with HTML, you can basically show anything. You've got colors, even pictures, rich text formatting, and so on. We've recently added a time slider to it for animated maps. You can imagine changes in traffic volume on roads year to year. You can go through that and see what the trend is on a given road or across the city. And it's open source and on GitHub for anyone to download or fork and tweak to suit their needs. So I'll go over what this specific map is showing. So this is our LPR parking occupancy report. We have vehicles that go around the central city with cameras on them that will read license plates and detect when people are overstaying. And from that, we can also get occupancy level out to how busy the roads are to get around an optimal occupancy level of 85%. To do that, we needed good ground truth restriction data. So this road or this section of the road is $P, where you pay for the second hour onwards, or it's all day parking, where you can park all day for $4 to $6 a day. What this is showing here is the change over time in the restriction for a given area on the road. So the pink here is all day parking and the green is paid parking per hour. We got complaints from a business that they wanted more paid parking. So if I cursor back, we briefly had all day parking here a few years ago, and then we changed the restriction to paid hourly. So when we're matching those GPS points to this polygon, it needs to know what the restriction is, matching to the right date and time. And this is kind of a way to diagnose, is that coming through correctly? Are we getting the right restriction? You can overlay LPR points on top of that, and they'll be colored by the same color of the restriction to make sure the LPR points up here are green and the ones down here are purple. And that can be all formatted in the data with a time value and a height level, so you can set a custom height for these polygons. This is how we visualize the occupancy at the end. So this is another extruded polygon here. where we've set the colour based on the occupancy. So at a glance, what we're trying to get is grey everywhere, which is your ideal occupancy level. So just a really easy visual way to see that at a glance, and you can filter this by the month. So from when we first started measuring this to now, are we kind of moving in the right place towards getting more of the grey and less of the orange and red? This is an example of the rich tooltips we have. This is the same map that I showed before, but just turning on the LPR points, which is the dots, and the occupancy level, which is the polylines there. And we're looking for the grey again here. So most of these are too low in occupancy. But this is really useful for diagnosing if the car happens to be missing points or missing cars, if they have the camera facing around the wrong way, if they turn the camera off and forget to turn it back on, that sort of thing. You've got these rich tooltips over every one of these points showing the time, the plate. I probably should have hidden that one there, but all the details about the detection that the car found. You've got support for multiple geometries in the same map. So this is showing points, polylines, and polygons on the same map. So you got ADT there as the points, coloured by the traffic volume. The surface of the road is the lines there, so which is mostly blue in Hamilton. It's sealed roads. And road density, so just length of road over the square metres of the SA2 or suburb, where you've got yellow being denser roads, generally up here in Rototuna. And you have reordering here, so if you need to show the roads above the points or something like that, you can reorder those. And legends can be turned on for every layer. There's about 10 different color gradient settings, or you can set a custom color as well for anything. And of course, you've got arcs. This is the travel to work data. Colors can be customized, opacity, width of the line sorts. We kind of came to all these feature additions based on what we needed to see. So it's pretty much tailored for what we want to show in Hamilton, but it's general enough, I think, that others would find it useful. This is ways of aggregating data. You have heat maps here. This is quite useful for things like crash data, where you're just trying to say where are the hotspots for crashes. You can visualize that as a heat map or H3 hexagons, which you can set a size of those hexagons basically, make them smaller or larger. Yeah, so I don't know if I got time to do a quick demo here. Probably not. I'll be kicked out of the room in 5 minutes, but I'll just show this. Just an example of showing multiple layers on a map. This is our data hub, which shows where we have data pretty much. So anyone doing a project can zoom into an intersection they're working on and say, oh, we've done a radar survey here that's got speed and traffic volume. We've got signals down here to record continuous volume, ANPR to get the amount of heavy vehicles. So it's just a way to see, what do we have? Got polylines showing up here for travel time measurements. Can turn on all the roads. It loads, so that's another polyline layer, which is directional roads, and then all the rest of points that you can just turn on and off. I won't go into these, I've already shown them, but there is an example Power BI dashboard for this visual that is on GitHub, so you can go into each of the different geometry types and see exactly how we've built them. So polygons, stacked polygons to show the change in housing types over time. There's demo data sets behind each of these. And animating points. So that's available for anyone to download, and feel free to flick me an email if you have any questions about using it. Just a couple, quickly, other visuals that we've made. We struggled to find a decent time slicer visual for Power BI. If anyone knows of one, let me know. But we used Claude to build one in about an hour, and it perfectly suited our needs. We've got things like AM peak, interpeak, PM peak, so custom time ranges there for transport. Those are traditionally what we use. Your 2-hour peaks or your 1 hours in between, you can set custom timeframes. Just a simple way to filter to a given time frame is what we needed. And recently we've built an image viewer visual for showing the before and after analysis of projects. So here we changed this intersection to signals. We did a before and after camera analysis showing where people walk. Do they start using the crossings at the signals rather than that island median crossing here? So we needed something with tabs so you can click between before and after and see the difference. You can also add dates to them. So it's got nice captions. These are all fields that you can put into the field well in the visual. And there's the ability to click on them to zoom in if you want to see the tiny labels in there. You can zoom and set black and white and different ways to see those images. Yeah, that's all from me. Yeah, get in touch if you have any questions about those. We did build these ourselves, pre-AI, and we have been using Claude to add more features to them recently, which has been super useful just to make visuals that are completely custom for our use case. So yeah, I think we'll be doing more of that in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for your presentation, Dale. I suppose that's another great example of, you can customize things to suit your organization. And obviously AI does help that out. You do need some knowledge, but it does help speed up that process. So yeah, lots of great use cases there of how, I'm sure we've all sat there in Power BI and been like, oh, I wish it just did this. And I think the way things are moving, there is, the ability now to build something out of the box for yourself that you can maintain that answers those questions. So just to ask for the GitHub link. So yeah, feel free, Dale, if you can either chop that in the chat, or I can email it. I do have it as well. I can email it out to everyone when I kind of wrap up and send everyone the recording. Was there any particular questions for Dale? Yeah, that's true. Claude's cheap now. It will cost a lot more later. Thanks, Dale. Dale's put the GitHub link in there.
And I need to head off now, but yeah, let me know if there's any questions, Warren.
Will do.
Thanks.
Well,
see you guys.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Dale. Thanks to all our presenters. I'll send everything up, and I'll wrap up, and I'll send an email to everyone. But again, if you want to get in touch with a pre-packaged Power BI visual, Capital Works, it's already pre-built for you to use, or if you're interested in, how we're using AI to improve and speed up Power BI delivery, or customizing, or we can even go and build some custom visuals as well if you like. Reach out about the briefing, which is the new way I'm delivering Power BI in AI courses. So thank you everyone. Perfect. On the dot, we're going to finish up there. I'll send a wrap-up meeting with the recording and all those links for you, but I'll catch you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.